Welcome to the Armed and Ready podcast. I am your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. We have a really exciting episode lined up for you, so come check it out. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the Armed and Ready podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. Today we have a good friend and Marine veteran, Rick Nelson, on the line with us today. And Rick, want to say thanks for carving out a little time for us today, man. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime.
So I've had the pleasure of knowing Rick for, quite a while now, probably close to 20 years. Consider him a good friend. And we're having him on the podcast today. He was in the Marine Corps and also served as a sheriff. And now he's retired from all that stuff. But Rick, share with us a little bit about, your whole venture, into the military. What prompted you or, made you make that decision to join up? And then tell us what you did.
I graduated high school in 1972, and in 1973, I was working as trying to become a plumber with my father. And one day I was on a job, on a Monday morning, I was on the job at San Francisco State University, and he's been a plumber for years. And he got in an argument with the inspector on one of his other jobs. And when he came over, my father being an Irishman, took his temper out on me and started yelling at me on Monday morning. And I looked at him and told him what to do with the job. And next thing I know, I was going to service. I went down and enlisted, and Vietnam was still going on. So I enlisted. And next thing I know, that was on a Monday. And next thing I know, Friday night, I'm in boot camp in San Diego.
Wow.
I joined the Navy is what it is. I was in the Navy, but I spent my time, 6 years of my career was spent with the Marines. I was a hospital corpsman dental technician.
Oh, wow.
And I spent 6 years with the Marines. And, I spent the whole 13 and a half years in the military, but 6 of it was with the Marines, and they were the greatest 6 years of my life. So I took the Marine Corps life to me. That was more than anything else.
Yeah. Did you, as a corpsman, did you deploy anywhere?
I didn't really deploy. I did trips like, I did Okinawa, Japan, and I did Vieques Island, Puerto Rico. When I was down there, I went and spent 2 days up in Gitmo, but I did a lot of traveling and stuff. I did time in Panama for jungle warfare training. I did time in Waterford, New York for winter training, like they do down here at Pickle Meadows.
Oh, yeah.
So, but most of my time was spent there. And then from there, I spent time at Oklahoma Naval Hospital. I was stationed at Mare Island Naval Base there, the sub base, Vallejo there. And my last tour duty was with VXE 6. If nobody knows what that is, that's Antarctic Development Squadron 6 out of Point Mugu, California. And yes, I did go to Antarctica.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So how long were you in Antarctica for?
I was down there for about a month and a half. I was married at the time, and my ex-wife decided I had 2 boys, and she got into drugs. And so they pulled me off the ice, and that basically ended my career.
Oh, wow. Man, that's crazy. So what was one of your favorite places that you got to travel to while you served?
Believe it or not, I love Vieques Island, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It's 8 miles off the coast of Roosevelt Roads, from San Juan, Puerto Rico and stuff. Because when I was down there, I was with the doctor I worked with had his pilot's license. So he'd go rent a plane for the weekend, and we go fly into different islands and stuff like that, exploring. And it was awesome. But then again, when you get to Okinawa, Japan, you took the Stars and Stripes flight down to the Philippines, and you hopped on different places.
That's awesome. That's a lot of fun, man.
I've been in Australia, New Zealand. When I was in Antarctica, we were with DC6. We were in Australia. We were in New Zealand, was our home base. And then we went to We flew over to Australia and Tasmania. It was awesome. I loved the military. It was great.
That's really cool. Gitmo, that's kind of a media hot button. What's Gitmo like?
We were there as long before they made it a prison, the prison and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And it was a base, and we flew in and we stayed on the base, and we did our, I took some supplies up there.
How long did you stay in Panama when you were there?
It was a 3-week deployment.
Okay. Nice. Any cool stories or memories you have from when you were serving? Like, being a corpsman, I'm sure you saw your fair share of kind of some crazy stuff. Anything that comes to mind when you think back about your service?
Well, when I first got stationed at New River Air Station in North Carolina, I checked in on a Saturday night, and Sunday morning, I'm laying in my rack, and somebody, they come over and go, "Hey, we need you." And what do you mean? I haven't checked in yet. Well, they had a helicopter go down.
Ooh.
I had to go down and get the, pick up the pilot and everything else that was killed. And then, I've flown in the Huey helicopters. I've flown in the Cobra gunships, the not the Blackhawks, but the CH-46s, CH-57, I think it was. And then I've repelled out of them. I've scuba dived. I've jumped, a parachute and stuff. So I did a lot when I was in the military. It was fun. No matter what you did, you got to make fun of it when you're in the military. You got to enjoy your life. If they send you to, overseas, take your time and get to see the country, get to see the world, because they're basically, think about this. Uncle Sam's paying you to go to like Okinawa, Japan.
Right.
They paid me to go to Japan and paid me to live in Japan. So yeah, I'm going to go look at it and see what it's like. And that's what I tell people. The military took a young, stupid kid that the world was against, and turned him into something. Turned me into who I am today.
Yeah, yeah, and the military's infamous for doing that, right? And as we all know, especially being in the Navy or the Marine Corps, especially, get to really see a lot of the world, all sorts of really cool countries and things like that. Probably more so than the Air Force and the Army, even though you get to see some cool spots in those branches too. But really get to see a lot of the world in those. How long after your service did you end up in law enforcement?
It was, let me see, close to 9 years. When I got out, I went to work for King American Ambulance in San Francisco, because that's where I'm from. And then I woke up one morning and I said, I'm done with being around sick people. And so I asked my dad if he knew anybody that was hiring. And he says, yeah, he goes, let me ask around. And he found a job, and I went to work as a core driller, slab sawer, wall sawer for a concrete, company. We went in and drilled holes in concrete and cut concrete up and stuff like that. And I did that for over 8 years.
Wow.
And I had met a lady and moved up to, we wanted to move to Reno. She wanted to move to Reno, so we moved to Reno in June of 93. And I applied for a job as I went to work at that time it was called the Hilton Hotel here. I went to work security there. And then in the meantime, I was waiting to see if I got accepted as a court bailiff is what I applied for.
Okay.
And then I got the word that I got accepted, and I went to the academy in 1973, and it's called the Cat 3 Academy, Category 3, which was basically a bailiff. And you carry your gun on duty, and that was it and everything. And then they asked me if I wanted to become a rig, Cat 1 deputy. And they sent me back to the academy in 2000. I went back to the academy, became a Category 1 deputy sheriff. Ended up doing 20 years as deputy sheriff and then retired.
Wow. Wow. That's a long time. And as a sheriff, you know what, I mean, I know, you know, in law enforcement, you can move into like, you know, different roles. You can work in the jail, you can be out on the street. What kind of stuff did you do while you were in there?
Well, I worked in the jail I was a bailiff, deputy, you know, in the bailiff, what you call it, housing deputy was the first 2 years of my life there. And then we started a boot camp that was fashioned after Sheriff Joe's out of Arizona.
Okay.
Where we took these inmates and made a boot camp out of it. And I did that for 3 years, and then moved on from there and went on and became a courts bailiff, and eventually ended up spending all my time, the rest of my career, in the courts, either as a bailiff downtown in our district court or video bailiff. And when I was the video bailiff, I was basically doing all the setting up for who went to court, when they go to court, and how they go to court. And using the background that I've learned, you know, organizational skills that I learned in the military really paid off for that.
Oh, I bet. Any interesting stories as a court bailiff? You know, anybody get unruly or out of control?
Oh, almost all the time. I had, I don't know if you all remember who, I can't think of his name now. First name was Joe. He did the Girls Gone Wild videos.
Oh yeah.
We had him in the court system for tax evasion. We had him, so we were transporting him back and forth. And then we had a famous one up here that was on TV quite a bit too. Was Breonna Dennison.
Oh yeah.
We had him in court, and then we had one of our judges get shot by an ex-Marine sniper.
Whoa.
Shot him, and we were on edge. We were looking for him and everything for 2 days, and then they finally caught him in Mexico.
Man.
He had killed his wife. They're going through the divorce proceedings. He had killed his wife and then ended up shooting the judge that was presiding over it. But you talk about something that was really, really scary. You know, it's like you don't know where to turn and what to look for.
Yeah, that is scary.
We've had our share in video court. When I was in video court, I've had people, you know, jump up and come after me, and I just drop them like a bad habit. But you know, and you get people to come in, you know, when you work at intake, and you got the inmates coming in, you know, they're drunk or high and stuff like that. I had a girl, I remember, I'll never forget it. She stood about 5'1", 5'2", weighed about 130 pounds, and she was so high on PCP that four of us, and I'm 6'4". At that time, I was 6'4", about 285. Another guy was 6'4", and he was like 280. And we had another one that was like 6 foot, almost 200 pounds, and she threw us around like we were rag dolls.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's hard to imagine.
Yeah, then you show the video of these people, and they go, "Oh, you doctored that video." It's like, no, don't.
Well, you know, like growing up in Reno, I remember some of those court cases. The John Francis was that guy's name.
That's it.
Yeah, and then Breonna Dennison, obviously that was, I mean, nationwide, that was a big thing, but it happened right there.
Yeah.
And I do remember, now that you mentioned it, I had forgotten about it, but I do remember that that judge getting shot. I'd forgotten about the details and stuff, but I clearly remember that was a really big news story. And I can imagine like the stress and pressure it put on you guys being in the court, right?
My buddy was his bailiff, and I was across the street. You know, we have two different courts. We have the justice court, and if you remember, down on the river.
Yep.
And then across the street was the district court. Well, I was in the district court. The family court's the one on the river. And all of a sudden you hear shots fired. And, you know, you train, you know, your whole career for this stuff. But you pray you never have to do it. And it's like, oh, my God, you hear it. And it's the first thing you do is you got, you know, where I'm at, I had to leave to go find out what's going on. You had to go through the garage. So you got to clear the garage. So that means you're looking under cars and looking in cars and everything else. And these are the judges' cars. They still don't know what's going on. And then you hit the street, and it's like people are running everywhere. And you know, again, you're running towards the gut shooting, and everybody's running away from it. It's like a fireman. Everybody runs to the fire. They run to the fire, and everybody runs away from it. So it was scary. It was very scary.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. What's it like, working in the jail with these inmates and stuff? I mean, for the most part, do they kind of just follow along, or do you have a lot of friction with these guys and gals?
I say, to be honest with you, Jason, I'll say 90% of them are, they're going to do their time and get out of there. Because you got to treat them, and the way I learned it, and I learned it from some of the old ones there, is treat them as you want to be treated. When you have them in detention like that, 90% of or 80% of what you have is pre-detention detainees. That means they haven't been found guilty, so they're innocent until proven guilty.
Gotcha.
Yeah, out there they're probably going to be found guilty, DUIs and stuff like that. But you want to make sure that you treat them the same no matter what, and you go from there. We had the lead singer, the cop from Village People.
Oh yeah.
He was in for drugs. We had the lead singer from the Black Crows was in for drugs.
Oh jeez.
Who else have we had? I can't remember them. But a couple of years ago, I've been retired 8.5 years now. Believe it or not.
Wow.
8.5 years I've been retired.
Man, time flies.
It does. And a friend of mine was on a cruise and was sitting in the hot tub. Her and her girlfriend were sitting in the hot tub on the cruise, and they started talking to this couple. And the guy goes, "Hey, where you from?" "Reno." "Really? Oh, hi. I've been to Reno." He goes, "What do you guys do up there?" And she was hesitant to say. And she goes, "I'm a deputy." "You're a deputy sheriff?" She goes, "Yeah, up in Reno." "Yeah." "Hey, does Nelson still work in the jail?" And she goes, "Deputy Nelson?" "Yeah." "Man, she's telling me this at a party." She goes, "Yeah, he thought nothing but great things about you." I went, "Whoa."
That's awesome.
And the thing is because I treat, you treat people the way you want to be treated, and, with total respect. There's times you're going to get pissed at somebody. I understand that. But if you treat people the way you want to be treated, 99.9% of the time, it comes back tenfold.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. The golden rule, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely right. Let me ask you, if you were, talking to a youngster now that was considering joining the military, what kind of advice or words of wisdom would you have for them?
Go in with an open mind, and go into the military and go into something that you're going to use on the outside. Every Marine is a grunt. That means every Marine's a ground pounder, just like every person in the Army is a ground pounder, no matter what. Every sailor is a sailor, no matter what. But don't become a bosun's mate and stay a bosun's mate for 20 years in the military. It's just like, don't become a ground pounder. Get into something. Get into avionics. Get into,
cybersecurity or IT.
Like something you can use on the outside. So when you get out and you go to work, you have that ability to say, "Hey, I've got 3 years, 4 years, 20 years experience behind me," and people are going to look at you and say, "Okay, let's see what we got."
Yeah.
And when you go in, like I said, go in with an open mind. I think, and I'm from the old school, and I'll say it now, and I'll say it until the day I die, I think everybody that is 18 years or older needs to do a minimum 3 years in the military. It teaches you respect, and it teaches you teamwork. And that's a lot of that. We're missing respect right now in our world, no matter what. When you hear somebody say, "Well, cops need to go back to school and learn to be cops." No. Parents need to teach kids that if a cop stops you, stop. If they say stop and talk to them.
Right.
Don't sit there and say, "Well, you can't talk to me." Yeah, we can. by law we can. And show respect. It's, you did nothing wrong. If you did nothing wrong, guess what? Nothing.
Yeah, it's when you start acting out of control and being disrespectful that, you put the cops in, a different frame of mind, and the situation's going to change.
Well, it's just like you sit here and you listen to what's going on in this world. Like I said, I'm from San Francisco, and the mayor of San Francisco, what was it, 6 months ago, vowed that they're going to cut $120 million out of the police budget.
Right.
And look what's going on in San Francisco right now. They're doing this smash and grabs, where they had, what was the Louis Vuitton store was ripped off of over $100,000 worth of purses. And they go, well, yeah, but see, the thing is we're not going to prosecute them. No, you prosecute them. You put them in jail. They broke the law. And now she's out saying we need our police to start becoming better police officers and enforcing the law. But wait a second. You just said a couple months ago that you didn't want that. You got that in LA. Look at Portland. Look how bad Portland is.
Yeah.
To me, and don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. There's bad cops. I'm not going to say there isn't. There's bad cops. But guess what? There's bad doctors. There's bad lawyers.
Yeah.
You're the VA guy. How many loan people do you know that are out for a quick buck and that's it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Too many of them.
Yeah. No matter what you have, they're all bad. You got a person that became a senator that was worth $2 million when she became a senator. She is now worth over $350 million. Where's she getting her money? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
$180,000 a year salary doesn't equate to hundreds of millions.
Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Harry Truman, if I'm not mistaken. And I probably am mistaken, but I think it was Harry Truman that says if you get into politics to make money, if you get into politics to make money and you're making money, then you're a crook.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you see some of these politicians, I think Nancy Pelosi just built or bought like a $20+ million home in Florida, gated, secured, it's like, guys, on $180,000 a year, you're not buying $20 million homes. So, clearly there's shady stuff happening, and it's a sad situation that the voting public doesn't recognize that,
Some of the voting public does though, Jason. Some do, but I want to say over 60% don't.
Right.
Because
they keep getting elected.
Well, look at what's his name? Her nephew.
Oh,
Gavin
yeah.
Newsom.
Gavin Newsom, yeah.
He owns a winery. So where did he get his money to buy a winery? And you talk to Kimberly Guilfoyle, and she'll tell you about him. She used to be married to him.
There's too many of them that are in that job for money, and like you mentioned, that essentially means that they're crooks. And I want to go back to the comment that you made about you're adamant about everyone should serve some time in the military. I couldn't agree more. I think, and I know that there's a couple countries out there. I think Israel is one of the countries where you turn 18 and you're mandatory a year or two. I forget what the requirement is, but you got to spend some time in 2 years, I think. Yeah.
It's 2 years in Israel, and Norway has, I think, 2 years. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it might be Sweden that has 2 years also.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it would take an act of God to change our country to require that, and probably would never even feasible. But the purpose and the things that you mentioned for why it should happen, I think when you look at a lot of our societal issues, a lot of the things, it's being a veteran and seeing what's going on, it's kind of unbelievable a little bit, right? Because
it is.
We were molded into, love of the country, defending the country, this camaraderie. There's, different backgrounds and races and religions, and it doesn't matter, right? Like, it's just, we're all one. And that's how the military and the veteran community is, by and large. And it's it's that non-veteran community that has really adapted this despicable kind of behavior that is really shaping our country into kind of an ugly thing. And I agree with your sentiment, and I would love to see every young 18-year-old have to serve 2 years in our military, because I think the respect that you mentioned, the life lessons, just shaping them as responsible people, and really implementing kind of that love for our country and what it means to have that freedom and all these different rights that everyone, leverages to do the stupid things they do. It has a different tone and a different context when you've served. It's not all these laws and the Bill of Rights. These things aren't things to be leveraged for your own gain. They're there to protect all of us.
Right. I agree 100%. But, you sit back and you look at what's going on and stuff like that. When I was going to school, and we're talking, I started school in, 59 is when I went to kindergarten. And you said the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, you took a nap afterwards, but you said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
But all through school, all through grammar school and junior high school, you said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning before you started. And that was to me. And then we also had prayer in school. Once they took the Lord and the flag out of our schools, our country has started to go to hell. And I'm not a Bible thumper by any means. You know that. I go on special occasions and stuff, but the fact that the minute they did that is when our country started going to hell. And then they took out shop classes and band classes and stuff like that. Stuff that the kids felt freedom in.
Yeah.
And now they're teaching this critical race theory. It's like, why are you teaching the Bidens? Instead of tearing down our statues, tell them what the statue was for. Tell them why they built that statue. Yes, they sit there and they talk about the KKK and stuff like that, but they don't realize the Democratic Party started the KKK, and it was to keep the blacks voting and stuff like that. But yet, when they say, well, we got to do this, they stop and say, well, no, that's not right, because it was not, it's like, yeah. People don't realize there was only one perfect person in this world, and we crucified him for being perfect.
Right.
And none of us are perfect. But if we stop and talk to people one-on-one, guess what happens? People realize, oh my God, last year I did an 8,000-mile road trip. I got in my car and drove back east to go see my grandkids. And I ended up down in Alabama and Georgia and stuff like that, because I got friends that live down there. And I go into a gas station, 7-Eleven, commonly called Stop and Robs and stuff like that. But I go into places like that and get a cup of coffee and everything. And the first thing, the women and the men that sit there and go, hey, how you doing? Hey, I see you're from Nevada. How is it out there? It's great, man. Well, what are you doing out here? I'm doing this. And, I've been here before, and blah, blah. And next thing you know, you're spending 20 minutes talking to these people, and you don't know them from Adam.
Right.
And they say, coffee's on me. Get out of here. Have a nice day. So it's like, no, I'll pay for it. No, it's on me. Don't worry about it. And then you get back out here, and then you start having, I get out here to Vegas, which, I love Vegas. And, you start having harassment, people harassing you for whatever. And so, like, people need to stop. Our society needs to stop and start talking to each other instead of talking against each other.
Yeah.
Is what we need. But as a military veteran and somebody, whenever I see a vet, see somebody in uniform or something like that, I always say hi to them. Hey, thank you for your service, man. It's great. And they look at you and go, and some of them look at you like, what are you talking to me for? Right. Because they're so used to it. People don't realize and if you talk to your Vietnam veterans, they'll tell you the same thing. I remember flying in from San Diego when I first got out of boot camp, flying into San Francisco airport to go go home for, leave, and be spit on and be called a baby killer and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people, and nowadays it's basically the same thing, but they're not spitting on them. They look at the military or look at the cops, and say, hey, my dad's cousin was a motorcycle cop in San Francisco for 20 years back in the 60s. What was it? I think he joined in 59, he joined in 59 joined in 55 and retired in 75. And he was a motor cop in San Francisco. And talking to him, same thing. Back in those days, they respected the cops.
Yeah.
Just like they respect the military, but now they don't respect the cops. They don't respect the military. They don't respect authority, because we've gotten to a nation that is, you owe me. I was born.
Right. Yeah, and it's
and then some of the parents just look at them and say, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah, and I think and you hit several points right on the head, but I think by and large, the country has been stripped of a lot of these foundational and fundamental activities and lessons and experiences that made our country great and made us, united in those periods of time when we were. And, even after like the 60s and the Vietnam era, things did correct, right? Societally, and start to get back on track. And I think, it's probably cyclical. I think if we look back at history, we'd probably see the cycles of, country kind of falling apart in that sense, like it is now, and then coming back together again. So, one can only hope and pray that, we get, some fresh leadership that can really implore and institute some more of that moral foundational structure that really unites this country and makes it a great place. Because right now, it's like you mentioned, it's a complete mess.
Well, look what happened after 2001. What happened to our country after 2001?
Man, we united.
It became a strong country again. It became the country that you knew it could be. And then all of a sudden it started drifting away again. Like, whoa, where'd this come from? And, they sit there and say, well, we don't know how it happened. Look at it. Take 5 minutes and look at it, and you can tell.
Yeah. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I know you got a lot on your plate, but I thank you so much for contributing to the Armed and Ready podcast and sharing your story with us. It's veterans like you that help shape our country and keep it rolling, man. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for your always being there when I needed help and stuff like that. And I greatly appreciate it. And I'll say this on the air. I heard rumor that you may be home for Christmas.
I will be home.
Give me a yell. Let's get together and have a cup of coffee at Easter. If not a cup of coffee, a beer or two.
You got it, man. I will call you as soon as we get in.
All right. You take care of yourself, my brother, and you take care and be safe.
Thanks. You too, Rick.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode. Please subscribe, click the link below, share with your friends. And hey, if you know a military person or a veteran with a great story to share, we would love to highlight them on the podcast and get their story out to everybody. Thanks so much.